he wanted to bring some new folks in to help rev up the communications operation. And after reflection, my decision was to recommend to the president that I give Anthony and Sarah a clean slate to start from so that they can talk about the president's agenda and help move it forward.
So there we have Sean Spicer, the outgoing White House press secretary. In his first interview since his resignation was announced, he appeared on Fox News. I want to bring in now Lauren Zelt, campaign manager at the Independent Women's Forum, and Bill Press, nationally syndicated radio talk show host and author. It is great to have you both here. And Lauren, let me just begin with you.
Good morning.
This shakeup, also the shakeup for the president's legal team, does it look like the Trump team needs a reset? President Trump is worried about something.
Well, good morning. Thank you for having me. First and foremost, I'd like to say Sean gave me my first job in politics, and I will always be grateful that he took a chance on me. And similarly, I'd like to thank him for serving our country. I think it's important to stop and take a moment and thank those who have stepped forward to serve in any administration for their service. That said, you know, I think yesterday we saw that Mr. Scaramucci did an excellent job in the briefing. You saw tweets from the left, from the right, from the media. Everybody's saying that he did tremendously well. So what I think is that we are looking very well positioned in terms of the White House communications shop to move forward and focus on the issues that matter to the president's agenda.
Lauren, I think you make a great point because, you know, I think we all know Sean, and we're just showing video of him smiling from ear to ear. I think he's probably one of the happiest people waking up in America today, knowing that there's a fresh start for him coming in the next couple of weeks. Because, Bill, we know that this has been a tough job for Sean Spicer. It's been kind of death by 1,000 cuts over trying to deal with a right message from this White House when the president has access to Twitter and creating great distractions. Do you think Scaramucci is going to be able to get that smartphone, iPhone, Twitter account away from the president?
Well, first, let me say that I've been at the White House covering the briefings now under 4 press secretaries, which isn't all that many. But of the 4, I mean, I hate to rain on everybody's parade this morning, but I think Sean Spicer was clearly the worst. I mean, Sean Spicer actually came in there and told lies to the White House press corps about the size of the crowd, about the fact that they never used these plastic coating on the mall before. But at the same time, I do want to say this. As bad as he was, Sean Spicer was a real pro. He knows Washington. He knows the press corps. He did respect us. Scaramucci does not. Sarah Sanders does not. I think this shakeup is really bad news for the White House because you've got a couple of amateurs in charge right now. And Scaramucci said, as of the president yesterday, it's important to let him express his own personality. But I think we've seen that's a disaster. What you need is somebody who's going to say to President Trump, be presidential. Put the damn phone away. Mooch is not going to do that.
Well, everybody, Phil, has been waiting for the pivot.
There it is.
The pivot ain't coming. I mean, you know,
right.
the pivot ain't coming, and we need to, you know, give up the idea of a pivot. This is what we've got. And when we talk about Sean, I mean, you know, from a personal perspective, you know, I think we can all say we like him. From a professional perspective, I think, you know, he had a tough job, and yes, misled and lied to folks trying to frame a narrative that was untrue. But Lauren, when it comes to the activity of the White House now and the open investigation by Bob Mueller and the president, you know, trying to look into getting rid of him and also looking into pardons for himself and his family, how tough of a job does this White House communications team have now?
Well, you know, it's not an easy job. You know, being a press person is not an easy job. But what I'm hoping is that Mr. Scaramucci and President Trump can be on the same page. You know, a lot of the stuff that we've talked about this week has come out of that New York Times interview that the president did earlier this week. What I'm hoping is that Mr. Scaramucci and President Trump can be on the same page in terms of evaluating those opportunities and whether or not they are beneficial for the president's agenda in terms of reforming our health care system and passing tax reform. We have to keep our eyes on the prize in terms of what the people who elected President Trump elected him to do.
Right.
And that is to make significant changes to our health care system and our tax code.
And let's talk about the electorate because, Bill, I want to ask you because we've got, you know, Donald Trump Jr., Paul Manafort, Jared Kushner. They're all set to talk to this committee next week. I was watching Tucker Carlson last night, you know, and they were going after the media and the fact that in trying to go after the truth that we just think of ourselves as being self-righteous and that we've got some mission So my question is to you about average Americans. Do you think that they're paying attention, that this stuff really resonates with them? Or to Lauren's point, that they're more concerned about jobs, their wallets, safety?
Well, first of all, yes, Americans are most concerned about things that affect them personally, no doubt about it, about their jobs, about their kids' education, about their health care, by the way, about their health care, where only 17% of Americans support this Senate health care plan, and yet this is President Trump's first priority and the Republicans' first priority. You've got to wonder if they're listening to the American people. But let me put it this way, Thomas. I think that it's true. President Trump's base, and he said it best, they don't care if he went on to Fifth Avenue and shot somebody, they would still support him. There is no way, no matter what he does, even an Access Hollywood tape, that he can alienate them. But if you look at the most recent polls, right, the last poll, 40% approval rating, 58% disapprove of his job as president. Same poll, ABC Wash Post. Right. 70% say that he is unpresidential. 41% he ought to say she should be impeached. The American people, I think, are seeing through Donald Trump.
Lauren Zelt and Bill Press, great to have you on. I got to leave it there.